So thank you all for joining us this evening to celebrate the PhD-Community initiative. My name is Chris DeLuca. I'm one of the Associate Deans here at the Queen's School of Graduate Studies and your host for tonight's event. Before learning more about the PhD-Community initiative, I want to start by acknowledging that Queen's is situated on the traditional Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee territory. We are grateful to be able to live, learn, and play on these lands. We make this acknowledgement as an effort towards reconciliation and the rebuilding of relationships. This land was occupied long before European arrival by Indigenous peoples with rich cultures that are still alive today. By mentioning this history, we hope to educate, to create an awareness of Indigenous histories for all our members of our community and as part of this institution's desire to foster inclusivity and to encourage reflection on what it means to occupy this space. So let me welcome you again to this evening's event and to celebrate our PhD Capstone event. For today's event, we are using the Zoom webinar platform, which means we are broadcasting out, and you, our audience members, will be able to share your thoughts using our chat feature and by entering questions in the Q&A feature box. Both of these can be accessed in the menu bar at the bottom of your Zoom window. Please note that we will have a dedicated Q&A period following the student presentations. If our connection gets disrupted at all during tonight's event, please rejoin using the link you were provided to access today's session. We will also be monitoring the chat to ensure content is appropriate. If it's not appropriate, we will unfortunately need to close the meeting promptly. And one final piece of housekeeping, we have enabled the live transcription feature, which you can activate or disable on your own as well using the menu feature at the bottom of your Zoom window as well. So now let's move on to the main event. The PhD Community Initiative brings together interdisciplinary teams of PhD students with organizations in the Queen's community each year. Each year, our community partners come to us with a challenge that they would like our students to help address. As teams and under the guidance of a mentor, the students apply diverse academic skills to help these challenges, provide meaningful recommendations, and research to support the needs of our community partners. We are grateful each year to our partners for their willingness to support our students. We appreciate their time, creativity, and support of this program. In a typical year, the projects of our students might range from a study of physician recruitment to investigating the needs of those on a social housing waitlist. However, this year has been different. Apart from transition to the remote environment, this year we have partnered only with the city of Kingston. We have all felt the effects of COVID-19, and we know our students want to be positive forces in our community. So when the city of Kingston offered to work with us on a series of projects focused exclusively on building resilience in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, it seemed like an ideal fit. The guiding question the city asked us was, how do we increase community resilience that is required to support economic and social recovery post-COVID-19? As you will see shortly, our students have tackled this question from various perspectives, working closely with the Kingston Economic Recovery Team to come up with concrete data, recommendations, and actionable research. At the School of Graduate Studies, we see this program as an exemplary fit with collaboration and with good learning that stems not only within the Queen's community, but that bridges to the broader Kingston community. To offer more thoughts on this unique learning opportunity and partnership, I would like to welcome a few special guests. First, I would like to welcome Queen's Provost and Vice Principal, Mark Green, to share a few thoughts. Over to you, Mark.
Thank you very much, Chris, for that kind introduction. Hello, everyone, and thank you for being here. Today is a true celebration of community. I say that because when Queen's University and the city of Kingston come together, there is certainly a synergy that makes our region one of the best and brightest in the country. Mayor Patterson and the city of Kingston, thank you for your partnership in this outstanding PhD Community initiative. This is but one example of how our students show their solidarity with the city and its citizens and vice versa. Personally, I had the pleasure of being involved with this PhD Community initiative since its inception in 2016. Outreach activities for our NSERC Create Sustainable Engineering in Remote Areas program was one of the first projects for a group of PhD students during that initial year. With this experience that I've had over the time, I strongly believe that the current initiative, especially being sponsored by the city, has the potential to assist our community to recover from all the difficulties suffered from the COVID-19 pandemic. To each student who has participated in this program, thank you. I recognize that this has been a year unlike what any of us have previously experienced. Despite the hurdles placed in front of you, each of you has remained resilient and dedicated and have risen to great heights in all of your efforts here. Participating in interdisciplinary projects is an outstanding way of stepping outside of your comfort zone or expertise to listen. We can listen to people and the environment around us. We open ourselves to different experiences that enhance the work we want to accomplish in our careers. From that experience, we gain fresh perspective. In doing so, challenges that seemed impossible are proven to not only be possible, but exactly the solution that may be groundbreaking. I mentioned previously my experience with this program, and I've always been particularly impressed by the innovation shown by the PhD teams and the ideas sparked by different perspectives brought from the range of disciplines. I observed teams develop outdoor programming for new immigrants at the Queen's Biological Station, and one team demonstrate their ideas through acting out a skit on stage. As such, I'm incredibly excited to see what the teams have in store for us today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark, for your thoughtful comments and for your ongoing support of the program. We really appreciate that. I'd now like to turn it over to Mayor Brian Patterson and invite him to say a few words.
Thanks very much, Chris, and good afternoon, everybody. It is an absolute pleasure to join you here this afternoon to celebrate and showcase the amazing work of another year of the Queen's PhD-Community initiative. I'm just going to say right off the bat, I'm a huge fan of this program. I think it is the very best example of the power of partnership between a university and the surrounding community. And it's been exciting for me just to watch how the program has evolved over the years, the incredible ideas that have come from it. And I can tell you as a local decision maker about how it's so important to be able to make decisions that are based on good data and good research and good understanding of key issues. And I have just seen so many great examples of where this program, how students like you have created that environment, given us the tools that we need to be able to make those right policy decisions, to be able to steer our community to move in the right direction. And honestly, I could say that probably this year there's no greater example of the power and importance of that partnership. I can tell you that partnership matters most when you're in a crisis. It matters most through the tough times, and I think to be able to see this group and this program come and be able to join together with the Kingston Economic Recovery Team, and to be able to see students working alongside business owners and stakeholders and people working on tough problems that our community is facing, and being able to come up with ideas and research that will really, quite frankly, lay the foundation for the economic and social recovery for our community. I think it's an incredible narrative. It's an incredible story to tell. And I wanted to say on behalf of the city and the community, how much I appreciate the work that you have all done. At such a key time, in I'm sure a very different way than you might have expected, a year or two ago, that you'd have to be doing this even in a virtual sense. But to be able to see these ideas come forward is really, really exciting. And so on behalf of my colleagues at City Hall, and also all the members of the economic recovery team. I've just heard nothing but good things, and just so appreciative of the great work that's been done. So I'm looking forward to seeing and hearing some more tonight, but just really appreciate the invitation to join you. And again, congratulations to everybody for your amazing work over this program.
Thank you, Mayor Patterson. We're thrilled that you've been able to join us this evening and to share in the learning that has happened over the course of this year. And it's such a pleasure for us to actually be partnering with the city this year and in years past. So we look forward to continuing that partnership as we move forward. Over the course of the PhD Community Initiative, we've had the pleasure of working also closely with the city's Director of Strategy, Innovation and Partnership, Craig Desjardins, who has been a champion of this program, not only this year, but as I mentioned in years past. So I'd like to welcome Craig to also say a few words of introduction.
Well, and after the eloquence of both the provost and our mayor, I guess it falls upon me to say thank you before we get these wonderful presentations. I'm so excited to see. Thank you to you, to Heather, to your team at Graduate Studies, and most obviously important to thank all of the PhD students. You know, the workload of PhD students in the best of times is significant, and it's always impressed me over the years that students have taken time out of their incredibly busy schedules to give back to the community. As the mayor has mentioned, you know, to have them do that during, you know, the unprecedented upheaval that we've seen over the last year really is an incredible testament to resilience, which is our really our topic of discussion. You know, the easy thing for all of us to do when we were on a call, I think it was Chris, it was you, me, and Heather. Back in August was simply to say, you know what, it's too much. Let's postpone. That's the easy path. And just the PhD Community Initiative is really one of the landmark, I think, mechanisms of connection between students and our community. And you know, your commitment and others' commitment to move forward, to the significant number of PhD students who came forward and said, you know, uncertainty in our coursework and whether we're going to be in Kingston, we're going to move forward. What you have created matters. What you have given us and what the details of that you'll share with us this evening will make a difference in our community. And that's why I get up every morning. I know many of us do that, and it's so great to work with people with passion, and that's what I have seen over the last several months is incredible passion. So thank you, and I'll get out of the way because we're here to see the presentations. And again, thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Craig. And I second your comment. I'm glad we didn't take the easy road, and I'm glad we persevered. And so let's learn about our students' presentations and go to them next. What you will hear now are brief presentations from each of our 4 groups that represent key findings and recommendations based on the work that they've been embarking on over the past year. So these presentations are a result of our students' hard work, dedication, creativity, enthusiasm, and care for our community. So first up, I would like to introduce Team C5, shorthand for Community COVID Concerns Communicated Conscientiously, which is composed of Christine, James, and Nathan, and who are joined by co-mentors Anne O'Riordan and Hannah Askoff. So over to you, C5, to launch off our student presentations.
Thanks so much, Chris. All right. Okay, everyone can see my slides. Thanks so much for that introduction. Again, we're Team C5, so Community COVID Concerns Communicated Consciously. And we'd like to acknowledge our community partners and also support from Queens. And I won't do the introductions because Chris has already done a great job of introducing everyone. My name is Nathan, and you'll see the rest of my team throughout this presentation. And thanks for joining today. So we looked at community confidence and why community confidence. So really wanted to know how people's economic strategies had changed because of COVID. And community confidence is a perception of the economic status. So it looks at economic and has economic and political consequences, and also predicts the future trajectory of the economy. So community confidence, or you can also call it sentiment, community sentiment, is used to measure changes in consumer attitudes, and this willingness to buy is being the most important aspect. So community confidence is a social indicator. So really we look at community confidence and it's really centered around two major things. It's about buying luxury items such as takeout. So if anyone participated in Canada Takeout Day last week, that would be a luxury item, and it's looking at that willingness to buy those luxury items, and also socio-occupational indicators, such as a paycheck for people who may have had jobs affected by this pandemic. So consumer confidence is a valid aspect of society to study and inform local decision makers, such as businesses and government and local government, on when consumer behavior will return to normal and how we can influence consumer behaviors now. So I'll pass it off to James to talk about some methodology and quantitative results. Thanks so much.
Super. So we put together a questionnaire of about 21 questions and administered it to people in and around the Kingston area. We had an overwhelmingly positive response. Over 2,000 people signed up, volunteered to participate in the survey. And we got Nathan, can you show the next? Yeah, there we go. And we got a considerable range across all ages, from 20 all the way up to 70s. For these data, of course, there are a lot to go over. I could probably spend hours talking about it, but I'm only going to focus on two key questions that we covered. So we'll go to the next slide. So of the questions, we asked people their perceptions of the frequency with which they engaged in shopping and dining before and after COVID. So here are the results for the shopping. We can see that from the beginning of before COVID to not after, but when we measured after the second lockdown, there was sharp declines in in-person shopping, as one might imagine, and some increases in online shopping. Notably, the increases in online shopping, though, were more outside of Kingston than inside of Kingston. So one of our directions here would be, how do we get people to spend more money when shopping online at local Kingston businesses to make up for that lost in person? And if we go to the next slide, as one might imagine, there was sharp declines in dining in around Kingston during the first and second lockdown. But oddly, this wasn't offset by increases in taking out. So restaurants obviously must have been and must still be suffering greatly due to this lost revenue. So we also formed some recommendations on how to improve people's patronage of restaurants in Kingston. And then with all of these questions, we asked people, when they reported low frequencies, what were some of the things that led to these lower frequency responses? So if we go to the next slide, the top 3 reasons people reported were other shoppers and businesses not following the guidelines. So the top one would be other shoppers. That's over twice of any of the other concerns. So more than half the people we interviewed said that their main concern was other people, patrons at restaurants or shoppers at businesses that are not following the guidelines. And then less so, but still substantially, the concern that businesses are not following health guidelines. And then lastly, convenience and affordability. So we tried to structure recommendations around addressing these problems, how we can increase people's confidence in businesses and how businesses and the city can work together to help people feel safer going to businesses and to increase patronage. And I'll pass it over to Chris now, who will go over the qualitative aspects of this data.
Yes, so we also asked people a number of open-ended questions, and we analyzed these using thematic analysis. So for instance, we asked what people perceive to be a risk to their health and safety. Next. And so really it was risks to health and not other people not following mask mandates or social distancing and stores being too crowded. Next, please. So there were a number of themes that emerged when we asked people what they perceived to be a risk. So not only health, COVID-19 obviously being part of health, also social distancing, masks, and stores. Next, please. Another open-ended question was asking how people's financial planning had changed during the pandemic. Next. And so many Kingstonians reported increased financial insecurity and decreased spending, especially for those who are on fixed or limited incomes. Next, please. So what we saw very strongly in the data about financial planning was it really appears to be a tale of two pandemics. So those who are on fixed incomes or who lost jobs as a consequence of COVID-19 really reported a lot of hardship. Whereas people who were able to work from home or who had job security, they were saving money because they had decreased spending because they weren't traveling, they weren't eating out as often. So it really is a tale of two pandemics. Next, please. So basically, we have several recommendations, both city-led directives, perhaps creating an online directory so people can shop locally in the Kingston area online. Public health directives, because people express concern about other people not following public health directives, to create a seal of approval for businesses. And then business-led directives, targeting specific age groups for advertising. For instance, we noticed that a lot of the restaurant business decreased in the over 50 age group. Next, please. So thank you very much for listening. We are Team C5.
Thanks so much, team, for getting us off to a great start. We will move on to the next presentation to keep our learning moving forward. So I'd like to welcome Carolina, Ryan, Brandon, Sherry, and their mentor, Connie Taylor. Together, they make up the Kingston Outreach Group. And so we will turn it over to them for our next presentation. Over to you, team.
Thanks, Chris, for the introduction. All right, hello, everyone. Welcome to our presentation titled In-Work Poverty Exacerbated by COVID-19. Over the course of the COVID-19 pandemic, we have seen entire sectors of our economy and groups of individuals disproportionately impacted by lockdown measures and restrictions. But what about people who were suffering before the pandemic? What about people who were working and yet still living in poverty? And so we were really interested in looking at people who experience in-work poverty or who are working and living below the poverty line. So to do so, we split our project into three chunks. The first, defining what in-work poverty is and who experiences it. The second, what barriers do these individuals face to economic opportunity and participation? And the third, valuing the lived experience of these individuals and using it to build meaningful support programs going forward. And these three components make up the crux of our final recommendations for the City of Kingston. So when we talk about So when we talk about in-work poverty, it's important to note that there is no universal Canada-wide definition of what this looks like. And that's a real problem because you can't coordinate efforts of different levels of governments and different organizations towards fixing this issue. So we're recommending the city adopt the following definition. It looks rather complicated, but it's really split into two main portions. The first, defining eligibility, and that's made up of the age requirements, the student status of the particular individual, and their personal income. The second portion, discussing total family income and the market basket measure, is how we assess whether or not that individual experiences poverty. Without going into details of the market basket measure, a single individual in Kingston, Ontario needs to earn just under $22,000 to be above the poverty line, and a family of four just under $44,000.
So during our research, we came across a story featuring Ahmed Abdi that we were able to draw on. Ahmed Abdi is from Toronto and had aspirations to be a carpenter from the time he was a teenager, but he had trouble breaking into the labor market and faced many barriers to employment. And although we don't know much about Ahmed, his story came to parallel our own research. Ahmed was struggling to get hired on so that he could fulfill his apprenticeship, and as a Somali Canadian faced racism within the construction industry. And when we look at people experiencing in-work poverty, we can see that despite their efforts to work and contribute to their society, they face many barriers to employment and moving beyond the poverty line. Through our research, next slide, please. Through our research, we created a conceptual model of barriers based on 3 different categories. City infrastructure barriers, which are more universally applied and dependent upon the city specifics, employment barriers that generally related to employment specifics, and individual barriers that may not be applicable to everyone experiencing in-work poverty and will vary from person to person. And although they appear in 3 separate categories, it's important to note that these barriers are often overlapping and dynamic. Furthermore, we need to keep in mind that for people experiencing in-work poverty, there are often multiple barriers to contend with at once. For Ahmed, racism and barriers to accessing on-the-job training were preventing him from improving his own situation and that of his community. Based on Ahmed's story and our own analysis, we came to understand that the key to effective change lies in understanding the nuanced and complex daily challenges people experiencing in-work poverty face.
Abdi's story helps us realize what barriers prevented him from participating in a job market. Generally, policymakers lack the first-hand experience. Thus, in order to provide appropriate support, people with lived experience should be engaged at all levels of the program development. To make recommendations as to how to ensure that the voice of those experiencing poverty are heard, we reviewed various programs implemented across Canada and selected those that were particularly successful. As for the consultation process, we found that programs with diverse engagement methods were more successful. More successful programs were also prolonged in duration and decentralized. Thirdly, we found that a reduction of barriers to participation yielded more inclusive engagement, and relatedly, that programs with higher success rate valued lived experience by providing appropriate support and compensation. In sum, recognition of the barriers comprises a crucial step in the consultation process. Thus, we recommend that individuals with lived experience of poverty are included as active members of community advisory boards, and that the board is involved in facilitation of the consultation process, and importantly, in a decision-making at all levels of program development.
So throughout our research and discussions, we came across multiple ideas that can be boiled down to a few key recommendations centered around utilizing a more holistic approach to support marginalized populations. Valuing lived experience through engagement is key to ensuring the right issues are being addressed. These ideas can then be enacted by designing support programs such as social enterprises and community benefits agreements. Social enterprises are a method of providing gainful employment to individuals with a focus on alleviating specific barriers, as seen with Kingston's own VOCAC, and their focus on supporting people living with mental illness by providing rehabilitation through employment. On the other hand, programs like community benefits agreements tackle broader barriers and provide wraparound supports to individuals on a larger scale. While these projects take a lot of resources and organization to get going, the benefits pay dividends, as seen in Ahmed's case, where after 5 years, he was finally able to break into the carpentry industry, and with support from the program is close to finishing up his apprenticeship. Because of that investment, he is now able to invest back in the community and support other marginalized individuals who are facing the same issues he was. Kingston has a plethora of great programs that support people experiencing hardship. However, navigating these programs can be tricky. A centralized resource that stays in contact with these community partners to know what programs are available and who is eligible for them would be an immense benefit. However, in the context of COVID-19, our biggest recommendation would be to provide accessible internet to marginalized groups. The current pandemic has put a spotlight on the issue of those who have and those who don't, and this is emphasized in the technology gap. In today's day and age, internet has become a necessity where it is required for job applications, support programs, and especially healthcare. The City of Kingston can best support those experiencing in-work poverty by providing accessible internet to low-income areas to allow them the opportunity of access. And with that, on behalf of the entire COG team, I would like to thank all contributors who assisted us through this tricky project and helping us guide us to an end product that we can all be proud of, and will hopefully work to benefit the Kingston community as a whole. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Kingston Outreach Group, for that presentation and for conducting this important work. it's evident across the presentations that we're already beginning to see some important themes emerge as we embark on this kind of research and work. Just a reminder, if you do have a question for our teams, to write it in our Q&A, and we will take those after we move through the 4 presentations. So now on to our next team, Team Triads, short form for training and reskilling individuals through actionable deliverables that are sustainable. Team Triads is our smallest team this year, made up of Navjeet, Igor, and Trent, and their mentor, Margot Patterson. I'd like to point out that Navjeet is joining us from India right now, where he is completing his doctoral research. So take it away, Team Triads.
Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you for pointing out that Navjeet is joining us from 2 in the morning in India right now. Thank you so much for being here, Navjeet. And we also have Margot here with us today. So the goal for me and Trent today is to show you guys what we believe the city could do to help support the arts community in Kingston. And you might be wondering why we chose the arts community. And that's a very easy question to answer, because if you consider the social, economical, and cultural impact that the arts have in our community, it's really important that a group that's suffering a lot through COVID has some opportunities brought by the city. So we hope to show you that. And to highlight how COVID has impacted the creative industries, these are a couple of surveys done by the Canadian Council for the Arts and the Ontario Arts Council. And as you can see, there's a huge loss in revenue by the creative industries. And you see $128 million lost in 2020. That leads to people losing jobs, companies thinking, we can't hire new people. We can't keep you. We have to let you go. So artists are losing jobs. In that same sense, they go to the government and be like, you know what, we need support from the government. Can we have something? And the CERB was one of the strategies. But how do we make that more sustainable? And how do we create something that's actually going to live longer than just the pandemic? And one of the big pieces of data for me is the fact that 94% of performances were canceled or postponed in 2020. I think we all suffer through that. Like, we all seen that happening. We're seeing artists losing the media, the space that they could be presenting the art. So that's not only in Canada, that's locally. This is a quote from one of our interviews, one of the artists that we interviewed. I just want you guys to read it for a sec. Is impacting the community. It is creating a huge toll on the artists in Kingston. So seeing that, our team set up to try coming up with something that could help those artists who are struggling due to COVID. And you heard throughout this entire day today how important is the partnership between the city and the university. And throughout this, we mapped a bunch of resources to create this entrepreneurship program for the arts. So the idea here is to have artists using the art, but learning, upskilling actually, and learning new skills that they could be used to change the way they do things and bring it to a different level. And as you can see, we have so many players within Queens. We have different organizations like the Smith School of Business, the Dance School of Drum and Music that has a certificate specifically for the arts and could totally be translated to the community, to the arts community in Kingston. So there's a lot of players, and we wanted to make sure that we are doing the right thing and we are actually hitting the right problems. So we conducted 7 key informant interviews with some of these key players here and also some artists in the community to understand, does this make sense for you as an artist, and how does the university can collaborate with the artists? So Trent's going to be talking more about what we found out throughout these interviews.
Yeah, so thanks, Igor. So from the interviews conducted, we identified immediate recommendations for the city, along with considerations to develop an entrepreneurial program. So these recommendations are solutions to problems presented in the interviews or solutions given by those who were interviewed. So first, we recommend creating a directory of all usable work, performance, and creative spaces, because artists need space to work, and that space currently is scarce and limited. We also recommend drafting a single resource sheet containing local, relevant, and updated information from the city and arts organizations on starting a business in the creative industries. From the interviews, it was noted that different artistic mediums have segmented communication channels, and so we recommend a unified communication channel, which can be used to relay applicable information to the local artists. Lastly, and most relevant to COVID situation, is using what space we do have available for the performing arts. So using local businesses, restaurants, and public spaces as unconventional ways to partner and present performative art will give more opportunities for performance that are currently unable to do so safely. And so when considering an entrepreneurial program for artists, we need to ensure that the program would suit artists and be feasible for educators. And so here are the themes that we identified: mentorship, continuous engagement, and experiential learning, all encompassed by equity, diversity, inclusivity, and indigeneity. And so mentorship was mentioned in all interviews and is especially important in the arts. There was an important focus on having both local mentorship, which provides an example of success in our environment, as well as external mentors specific to the artistic mediums to provide greater technical expertise. Much like any entrepreneurial program, continuous engagement was recommended by experts and asked for by the artists. Interestingly, there was an idea presented about a science-style arts incubator, where program participants would be members in that incubator and accessing shared entrepreneurial resources and information which are specific to their creative industries. Experiential learning is reflecting on experience as part of educational growth. And so this would allow artists hands-on applicable knowledge to their business endeavors and was a way that was outlined to engage and promote educator buy-in. All of these themes are tied together by equity, diversity, inclusivity, and indigeneity. While we have not done any surveying or assessments within the scope of our project, going forward, there needs to be a serious compensated consultation on how a program offered to local artists will respect the diversity and excellence in our community and provide access to artists who historically have been devalued by institutions such as university and government. And so the impact of COVID-19 on the local arts in the city of Kingston is not subtle. We've already shared our findings with the city, and we're excited to move forward under the creative industry strategy. And so we have identified that local artists need support and recommend immediate solutions, along with the not so new idea that artists want entrepreneurial capacity to earn a living from their creativity and their passion. Implementation of a program to upskill local artists will provide immeasurable economic opportunity and will keep our arts resilient for whatever the future may hold.
Thanks so much, Team Triads, for another insightful presentation with really innovative recommendations that I think will be far-reaching. So our final team to take to this virtual stage is aptly named PhD United, who is composed of Emma, Skylar, Philip, Nancy, and their mentor, Jane Johnston. So welcome, PhD Team United.
Awesome. I hope everyone can see that. Thank you so much, Chris, and hello, everyone. We are Team Resilient Kingston, as you just mentioned, consisting of Nancy, Skylar, Emma, Jane, and myself. And we look forward to sharing our project about community and resilience with you today. So the goal of our project was to bring different members of Kingston's community together during the pandemic and offer them the chance to connect, share experiences, and inspire each other. At the same time, we wanted to analyze their conversations and collect stories, advice, and feedback that can serve both the participants as well as the city and the Kingston Economic Recovery team with whom we worked together during this project. So we developed an interview guide, recruited 17 participants living in Kingston, and conducted focus group interviews in which we interviewed 4 groups of 3 to 6 people. Groups were organized by individuals who lost their jobs due to the pandemic, those who kept their jobs, post-secondary students, and retired individuals. The sample consisted of mostly female participants and ranged in age from 18 to 77 years. We do realize that our sample does not represent the entire Kingston community due to size, sampling convenience, as well as gender, race, abilities, and socioeconomic statuses. However, we still deemed the final sample appropriate due to the limited scope of the project, as well as the primary purpose being to connect strangers with each other. Focus group interviews were conducted on Zoom in February and lasted 73 minutes on average. We asked questions about resilience, community, connectivity, and inspiration and advice. And to stay true to our interview approach, Jane, our mentor, will now ask us 3 questions to summarize the research findings. Unless she's on mute.
Hear me now?
Yes, there we go.
Thank you. Nancy, you've been involved in this project since September 2020 and have interviewed 17 individuals in 4 focus groups. What have you learned about their resilience?
Well, resilience can be approached from 2 perspectives. First, looking at the community approach to resilience, the various programs run by different institutions such as Queens, the Senior Center, local churches, and specialized programs for individuals, as well as the availability of city-sponsored activities such as skating and the open parks and trails across Kingston were all recognized as instances of support contributing to resilience. Additionally, the leadership of the public health unit was commended. Next, looking at the personal approach, connecting with friends and family is important to resilience. Our participants indicated that the pandemic fostered more meaningful connections with friends and family. There was also a greater individual awareness of the importance of working together and helping each other. One employed participant said, "We're not all on the same level. People are being hit in different ways. We're only going to get through this if we're doing it together."
Thank you, Nancy. Emma, as we all know, the pandemic has come with several hurdles, but it also opened new doors and has given some of us time to reflect. What were some of the challenges and successes Kingston citizens experienced?
In terms of negative adaptations, participants discussed several challenges that developed from the long-term uncertainty and restrictions of the pandemic. Professionally, the work from home style limits collaboration and socialization, while many participants longed for. For those who lost their job or had to close their business, there was a sense of shame, guilt, and a lack of control. This lack of control also presented as a lack of purpose for many participants who feel they are living day to day or month to month, waiting for the next piece of guidance. In terms of positive adaptations, participants noted increased practices of self-care and mindfulness, emphasizing the importance of treating oneself with kindness. In the professional context, be it school or work, participants talked about the newfound flexibility and increased casual nature permitted in the working from home environment.
Thank you, Emma. Now, Skylar, if you had to summarize your 3 most important findings, what would they be?
Thank you, Jane. So our key findings are represented by this graphic. Each term illuminates and supports one another, much like the conditions that we have discovered are key for experiencing resilience. The first term is community. Being part of a community is a key component of resilience. For Kingston residents, the local community was a major source of support. Participants expressed their appreciation for opportunities to gather with others virtually, such as at online Queen's lectures, book clubs, and birthday parties, to name just a few. Second term is gratitude. Gratitude holds the whole process of being resilient together for many. Participants found themselves grateful for, in their words, the little things in life, for nature, for those working to keep Kingston safe, and for organizations committed to finding solutions for the city's social and economic recovery. The final term is privilege. This heightened sense of gratitude was accompanied by a heightened awareness of privilege. Participants shared their perceptions of how, for already under-supported communities, lack of privilege magnified the impact of challenges brought on by the pandemic. One post-secondary participant stated that their hope for a more resilient Kingston is, in their words, a more socially just Kingston, underscoring the interwoven nature of these 3 findings.
So finally, we'd be remiss not to mention how valuable this project has been for ourselves as well. Our weekly meetings gave us a structure during these trying times and fostered social connectedness, experience sharing, and support within our group as well. We learned to use our different study backgrounds and experiences as an advantage. We grew stronger and more confident by managing a high workload and staying true to our initial intentions with this project. And we developed friendships that we all hope will last long beyond the PhD Community initiative. This experience has given us a purpose, motivation, and personal development that enhanced our own levels of resilience. And we tried to demonstrate this visually through our virtual backgrounds today. So we'd like to thank everyone who helped us grow and realize this project. First and foremost, thank you to our lovely participants for sharing your stories and your thoughts. A special thank you to Craig Desjardins at the City of Kingston for inviting us to your insightful CURT meetings. And thank you to Heather Merla, Chris DeLuca, and the School of Graduate Studies for offering this great program. As a last note, we have created a report on our project, which we are more than happy to share with anyone who's interested. You can reach out to me at this email, and we'd be happy to share it with you. Again, thank you for listening, and we are happy to answer any questions in the Q&A session.
Thank you, team, for sharing that thoughtful presentation and rounding out our student sessions. I would like to encourage everyone to consider questions for our 4 presenting groups and to share those in our Q&A box. We'll go to those questions shortly. But first, I think it would be useful if we round out our sessions with some culminating reflection. And for that, I'd like to turn to Hannah, a PhD candidate who joined the PhD-Community initiative last year and who enjoyed her experience so much that she rejoined this year as a co-mentor for one of the teams. So I'd like you to join me in welcoming Hannah to share some final thoughts on how these presentations come together to bring us some key messages for Kingston as we move forward post-pandemic. Over to you, Hannah.
Thank you so much, Chris. I hope everyone can hear me. So I wanted to first start by saying thank you to everyone who came out to support this program, and also a huge thank you to our teams for those fantastic presentations. Your research has given all of us a lot to think about, and I'd like to pull on some key threads even further and emphasize the long-lasting importance of the work that you've done here. So just to summarize briefly, from Team C5, we learned that community confidence has wavered with the onset of the pandemic. Kingstonians are spending less money locally and experiencing the pandemic in different ways. From Team Kingston Outreach Group, we've heard that there are individuals struggling not only with in-work poverty, but other structural barriers to economic success, all of which are exacerbated by the pandemic. From Team Triads, we saw that there is no one way to recover from COVID-19, hearing about the potential value of an arts-based entrepreneurial program. And finally, from Team PhD United, we learned that despite these challenges, the Kingston community is in fact resilient and has adapted to the pandemic to ensure that they can still thrive in the face of adversity. And I give you this summary because I think collectively these research projects speak to the diversity of the city of Kingston. There's no question that our community has undergone significant challenges with the onset of the pandemic, but as these projects show, how these challenges have been felt and how recovery will occur varies considerably. Each project illustrates that the impacts of COVID-19 are different for everyone, necessitating an equally diverse recovery plan that is not one size fits all, but can cater to this variety of community needs. This research into the various experiences of the pandemic is important, not only for a COVID-19 recovery, but for building back better as well. Each project offers us rich insights into the makeup of our community, and in doing so provides not just a recovery plan, but also a roadmap to building an even more vibrant, equitable Kingston that will continue to thrive long after the pandemic is over. I will say that COVID-19 has been hard on graduate students. Online teaching and learning is challenging. Many of us have had to pivot our research projects, and it's easy to feel isolated and helpless in the face of so many negative social developments. But watching each team flourish this year and seeing your projects unfold, I think speaks to your own impressive resilience. In addition to navigating very unusual research circumstances, all 4 teams showed the depth of their commitment to community engagement and social change, and your projects speak to the long-lasting difference you will make in this community, an accomplishment that deserves applause. Of course, none of these successes would have been possible without the guidance of our mentors. To Anne, Connie, Jane, and Margot, I think I speak for all of us when I extend my deepest thanks to the four of you. You have volunteered so much of your time, your advice, and emotional energies into seeing these projects through. And it is with your guidance that the success of each team is made possible. So thank you. Thank you as well to the City of Kingston. Rich community partnerships like these are the pillars of meaningful action-based research, and we are so grateful to you, our partners and co-producers of knowledge, to have been able to work together to plan for a stronger Kingston. And finally, thank you to Chris and Heather, the backbone of the PhD Community Initiative. At a time when it is easy to feel very disconnected from all our communities, you have worked hard to ensure that there are spaces for students and the community both to thrive. You have given us the chance not only to grow in research and professional capacities, but also as engaged, involved citizens. This program would not be a success without the time that you invest in it. And so I want to say a huge thank you to both of you for your support and hard work. The pandemic has been difficult and moving forward will be equally hard. However, we can celebrate today that through the PhD-CI, we leave behind a legacy of positive change, and we'll be able to push on with the skills we have developed here to continue with meaningful research that builds better, stronger communities wherever we go. So thank you everyone for your hard work, and we encourage your questions and engagement. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Hannah. Your words captured perfectly and brilliantly the projects and their inherent complexity, and also the challenges and strengths that I think were felt and experienced this year as we worked together among ourselves in our teams and with our community partners. So really appreciate that summary. To close out our session, I want to bring it back to Heather to share with us a message from our principal and Vice Chancellor Patrick Dean, and then we will be turning it over to our Dean and Vice Provost Fahim Kadir to share a final thought with us. But first, a message from our principal.
I want to offer congratulations and wholehearted thanks to all our PhD students engaged in the PhD-Community initiative. Thanks to you for helping to address the challenges that our community has faced and will face as it recovers from the pandemic. I need to thank also the City of Kingston for partnering with the university in this learning partnership, and not just this year, but in past years as well. The PhD-Community initiative is an extremely valuable interdisciplinary learning experience that not only brings Queen's close to the community, but also brings the community closer to Queen's through shared learning experiences and the achievement of mutual goals. This focus on Kingston's recovery and resilience from the pandemic, I think, is an especially noteworthy demonstration of how our institutions and the community can work together to address the challenges we face. I've often commented on an experience I had a number of years ago in Salamanca, Spain. I was there for the 800th anniversary of the university. Salamanca is about the same size as Kingston, and the University of Salamanca is about the same size as Queen's. And I remember vividly at a key moment in the celebrations, a parade of the university through the streets of Salamanca, when it seemed all the citizens of Salamanca came out to celebrate the university and its relationship with the community. I suppose such things take 800 years to build, but that was evidence for me of a city and a university understanding that their fortunes are closely connected. When I think about Queen's relationship to Kingston, I aspire to a similar level of close cooperation and integration. So the PhD-Community initiative, I think, is a wonderful example of this. It certainly has wonderful benefits for our students, and I know it brings benefit to the city as well. So congratulations to all of you. This is work of which the university is extremely proud. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather, for sharing that. We're grateful to the principal for his message, and we share his aspirations for a strong, meaningful, and resilient relationship between Queen's and the City of Kingston. So I'd now like to turn it over to Dean Fahim Kadir to share his final thoughts around the PhD Community Initiative. Over to you, Fahim.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you, everyone. What a privilege for me to attend this celebration. We're holding this event at a time when almost all of us, those who are in the academia, those who are outside, pondering the future of the world. We're thinking of a post-pandemic social order, post-pandemic world. Those who are in the academia are also engaged in a very serious debate about the academic mission of us, universities. The academic mission hasn't really changed much. The core mission, which is about creating responsible global citizen. But the pandemic has added a new dimension to the academic mission of many universities, including Queen's right here. It is a bigger question for us to ask, and I think, have been asking this question for a while. It is really about our academic responsibility. The mission that we craft out often focus on the learning mission. But where lies our academic responsibility? How do we respond to societal challenges? The question for us also to think about the role of universities in building what I call a better normal, a term that I have borrowed from someone else. We don't want to really return back to the old normal. The old normal was imperfect. We had all kinds of challenges. It was a flawed social order. So this really is an opportunity for universities to become a part of the process of building a better normal for all of us. One of the exciting aspects of the PhD Community Initiative is that Queen's, as an academic institution, didn't really wait for the pandemic to happen to start rethinking of the university's academic mission or redefine it, or look for an opportunity to come up with an idea of the university's academic responsibility. The PhD Community Initiative was introduced a few years ago, and the goal was simple. We wanted to be engaged with activities in the community where we live, a community where we belong. We don't want to maintain the artificial distinction, the so-called artificial town gown distinction. That doesn't make any sense, not in 2021. So this PhD Community Initiative was mainly about connecting us, not just in a superficial way, in a very deep way, to the community where we belong, where we live. It is about building partnership with community organizations, working with and for community organizations on issues that are fundamentally important to our community. Our graduate students, PhD students particularly, are often on the forefront of producing what I call critically important knowledge that serves the global good. The PhD students that work on different projects over the last few years had to take on this initiative on top of many things they do. It's not an easy task for any of you to tackle. You spend 8 months of your time working with a community organization on a community-driven project, not a community-based, community-driven project, finding a solution that can be found in the community. You're not imposing anything from the top. So it's a learning process. It's the process of building a shared agenda. It allows us to build a relationship with the community that is long-lasting, where there is no such a thing as us versus them. We are part of the same equation. It allows us also to play the role of what I call a catalyst to improve life, to improve human conditions. And this year was particularly challenging. It's a difficult year for many, almost all of us. It was also very difficult for many people living in Kingston. And I thank all of you to spend your 8 months' time working with the city on its economic recovery project. The project has allowed us to understand some of the pressing challenges facing the community today, and also has given us the opportunity to work with the community organizations that you have picked up to come up with a solution that has a meaning, has a purpose. It's not something that you would be devising based on your own understanding of the world. You're looking things through your own, not through your own prism, through the prism of your community partners. This year also is a good year for us to think of how to expand the PhD community initiative. We have already started the process. We're taking a closer look at the PhD community initiative that was introduced a few years ago. What is next for us? How can we be part of national and international initiatives? How can we go beyond the local community to become really engaged at the global level? That is something we're thinking of a bigger, bolder vision for the community-driven initiative that we have undertaken a few years ago. So I wanted to thank all of you, particularly our students, for your commitment to social change, for your commitment to our own community. It shows your passion, your dedication to issues that are truly important to all of us. I'm also grateful to our mentors who have gone beyond the call of their official duty to support our graduate students day in, day out. I cannot thank you enough for your extraordinary support. My thanks to the city of Kingston, for their ongoing collaboration with us. And I think we have opportunities to continue to explore other more meaningful opportunities, bigger opportunities to explore down the road. I wanted to thank my colleague, Dr. Heather Marla and Dr. Chris DeLuca for their guidance and support. They managed the entire project despite all kinds of challenges this year. My sincere thanks to Heather. She has taken it on almost unilaterally without really seeking any help from anyone else, and Chris for guiding all of us through. Again, I wanted to also thank two of my colleagues, Alex Salaflesh and Colette Steer, for their support for holding this event today. We're going to be ending today, but this is not really the end of the journey that we have already embarked on. It's a large journey. There's a bigger purpose, much bigger objective. We want to create a different world, a just, equitable, and sustainable world. So we have just begun our journey, and we have a long way to go. And thank you for your passion for this journey and your continued support for this long but promising journey. Thank you all.
Thank you, Fahim, for those comments. Much appreciated. And thank you all for joining us this evening. This brings us to the end of our program. I would like to thank the City of Kingston one last time for this partnership, which is clearly generative and meaningful for all of us, specifically Mayor Brian Patterson, Craig Desjardins, and the members of the working group for all your support this year. A special thanks to our students and to our mentors for your dedication to this program, to your projects, for the care you've shown for our community. Despite the challenges we faced this year, it's clear through your presentations that you have shown resilience, and you have led us to some really strong recommendations that will put us in good stead as a community going forward. I would also like to thank our workshop facilitators, Diana Drury from the Smith School of Business, Daria Gunner and Jenny Lee from Queen's Career Services. And finally, many thanks to my SGS colleagues, Fahim Kadir, James Reynolds, Colette Steer, Alexa LaFleche, for their support of our program. And as Fahim mentioned, we couldn't have done it without our colleague Heather Merla, who masterfully coordinates the PhD Community Initiative. So many thanks to Heather. It has been an absolute pleasure to be part of the PhD Community Initiative this year. I know our teams are still meeting with the city over the next several weeks, and so we wish them well in that pursuit. This is meaningful work that is going to continue to live on to impact our community. I hope you are feeling as energized and inspired as I am as we continue to think forward as to what we are going to pursue in the weeks and months ahead. So with that, I wish you all a good evening. Please stay safe and healthy and take care. Good night.